All right. Well, guys, this is Alex with Conservatives of Texas, and also I'm a precinct chair here in Randall County for the 111. We're having our Friday night invite. We have Mr. Tony and Miss Vivian joining us tonight. We're going to talk about some topics, as you can see down here. One is the Chief Birkenfield situation here in Amarillo. Number two, we did have a Monday protest there in front of on Western Street and 40 this last Monday. And then we'll talk about our upcoming local election. So, guys, without further ado, let's get started. Um, Welcome, guys. Tony, if you want to just spend about 30 seconds just telling folks kind of a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do. And then after that, Ms. Vivian, if you don't mind doing the same. So let's get it going.
Me first, or
I was trying to get
think you're
Tony. There he
I
is.
was
Go
still
ahead, Tony.
muted.
Go ahead.
So I am Anthony David Rodriguez. I've been here with the local construction company for about 25 years. I worked for a lot of builders back in the 90s. We had over 60 guys. But about 10 years ago, I started a ministry. It's called Final Hope Ministries. And we've kind of got involved interviewing politicians, people running for office. And since that time, I've seen a lot. I've done a lot. They asked me to go in and work with the homeless about 8 years ago. But it just seemed like everything that we have done and suggested, I've just learned a whole lot. And we're just trying to give back to the community nowadays. So I enjoy things like this, and I enjoy that you guys are having us here today. So thanks, Alex.
Hey, you're very welcome. I really appreciate you taking some time to come on, you and Vivian both. We are going to be having more of these shows throughout the week. It's all about just getting the information out there. So, Miss Vivian, if you don't mind, we'll get you on. So let's go ahead and get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
um yes, I'm Vivian Inez Javon Woods. Family's been here in Amarillo very long time, since the earlier days of the city. I met Alex and Tony this past week at a protest that was going on over off of Western at Blue Sky Restaurant. Um, I attended the protest, the immigration protest, in the week previously. Um, I've always had a focus sort of on the federal elements of government. I've never really taken a closer look at local politics, and that's something that's changed here recently. Getting more involved. I am a CDLA driver, so I'm usually on the road driving. Here of late, I've been local, not too much moving around, so I've gotten a lot more interested in what's actually taking place here.
All right. Well, thank you both for coming on. And let's get started with the topics here. As you can see here on the ticker, I'm going to read a statement from the city of Amarillo pertaining to um, Chief Birkenfield. This was published on February 21, 2025. It says here the city of Amarillo announces that it has mutually agreed to part ways with Police Chief Martin Birkenfield, who served as the chief since May of 2020. Chief Birkenfield has elected to retire from the city of Amarillo effective February 21, 2025, and after nearly 35 years of service, to the Amarillo Police Department. That's a lot of time. I do appreciate his service. It continues here. In light of recent events, Chief Birkenfield recognizes as a public servant in a leadership role actions taken in a private capacity can influence confidence in law enforcement. Maintaining that trust is something both the city and Chief Birkenfield take seriously and therefore have made this decision after careful consideration and discussions with the intent to provide finality, avoid potential civil service proceedings, and to move the department and community forward as quickly as possible. Chief Birkenfield has dedicated his career to public safety, serving in various roles since joining the department in 1990. The city recognizes his contributions for his decades of service to Amarillo. The city of Amarillo will begin the process of selecting a new police chief in the coming weeks. In the interim, Assistant Police Chief Jimmy Johnson will serve as acting police chief. So, we've seen some things on social media. Some folks are bouncing back and forth. The chatter is going to be chatter. You can always expect that. But I'm glad that I'm talking to two folks here that do have some sound logic in their way of assessing certain things. And not to say that the folks on the chatter are not logical. I'm just saying that it can get pretty sporadic. What are your thoughts? We'll start with Tony, and then on our next topic, we'll start with you, Vivian, to keep it fresh and going. But on this here, we'll go with Tony, and then we'll go with you, Viv. So, what are your thoughts on that, Mr. Tony? Tony, you're still muted.
Sorry, here I am.
It's okay.
So I think nationally, statewide, locally, doesn't matter where, what capacity you serve the public, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. This has been a topic of national debate for over the last at least 10 years. If you look at the sex trafficking, the child trafficking, the pornography, everything that's involved with younger people nowadays, it's a big topic. And I think that if you're serving, especially in law enforcement, their focus and a major capacity should be stopping these people. And so it's just common sense. Why would you do that? Why would you put your family and your career and everything at jeopardy in writing this letter? So obviously I felt like there's more involved than just that. So I don't know this guy, but I do know this is the city of Amarillo, and we need to stand up to that. Why they're trying to work things out, I don't know. Why you would not just fire a man like that, I don't know. But obviously, I think that there's some friendships in the city that sometimes need to be broken so that you can protect the citizens of your city. Amarillo has always been known as being tough, especially county sheriffs, on things like this. So I don't know where the city of Amarillo is at with all this and why they're essentially playing around with this. We should have made a statement that said we absolutely do not agree with this, and we absolutely will not tolerate this in our city, and leave it at that. And I think that the mayor and the council would have had more support like that. But obviously there's some friendship there that the guy has served long, and we appreciate that. But it makes you think what has happened throughout those last 35 years. And, we should just, as public, we should take notice that happened, and we should take notice of how the city handled it, because the elections are coming up. And it would be nice to have a conversation with mayor council about why he was not just let go, and why we had to have a big ado about it Friday morning at a closed session meeting. But yeah, I just believe that we as citizens need to start using common sense as our language, as our way of living. And we need to look through all the rhetoric and all the closed eyes that's been here for the last 25 years. And you can think back to Sheriff Shoemate. You can think back to the last mayor that we had. Several mayors that we've had have not had the best interests of our citizens in mind. And so basically it takes us to speak out about these things so that the citizens can open up their eyes and use common sense. But, you know, for people who love this city, we have to think about our kids and our grandkids and move on from there. And so listening to the candidates that are upcoming for this new election, I think is our key to moving forward and healing. This needs a lot of healing from what's been on for the last 12 years that I've been involved. Really goes deeper than that, longer than that. But anyway, I'm going to let Vivian talk, but I do think that we need to open our eyes, use our common sense. Use our head, guys.
Yeah, Vivian, if you want to go in and mute and get ready, I will say that some of the things that I've seen that have caused the problem with this, the manner as to which they've, decided to deal with it, is that other people have come forward. I think his sister came forward, not Chief Birkenfield, but the victim, or not the victim, the perpetrator's sister had come out and made some comments, and I think that just adds to the concerns as to how our council and everyone else decided to kind of hit the pause. So go ahead, Vivian, if you don't mind.
So I agree with much of what was just said. From my angle, from my perspective, it is of great importance to understand what is taking place, and the response is important. We can't, we can't always stop things before, but now once you know, you can't pretend anymore. And so, and it's my understanding the gentleman perpetrator, he admitted to his crimes and he is now being dealt time. So when you look at something like this, and it's not a question of, well, maybe someone lied, maybe it didn't happen. We know it happened. There's no question about the case. I think that makes the response even that much more important, because these are leaders of the community. These are influences in the community and of the next generation. And so, for the chief or former chief, if you will, for him to have responded this way is concerning. And it was a delicate situation on the part of how then he was handled. But this is something that needs to be looked at. And I do hope every other person in this city heard about this and is paying attention to it and what comes next.
Yes. Well, thank you for that, guys. So next, the Monday protest, where folks got together this last Monday and they decided to, assemble, which is a constitutional right. That's okay, not a problem. I had never met you before, Vivian, and I had seen you there recording, and I'll say that, what you did recording and the way you did it, I thought it was really good. You just kind of stayed, without putting any foot in any side. You just kind of were evaluating the situation. I really appreciated that. I was curious who you were, but you did hear some things, as we've found out in our talks, that I don't know if their people were actual journalists. They may or may not have been, but you were told some things about us that were there. And I found that very interesting to the degree. If they are journalists and they're making those kinds of statements, I will say that it's almost no wonder why we're dealing with what we deal with in this city. So, if you don't mind talking a little bit about that protest and a little bit about what they had told you just on first push when you got there about, myself and others.
Well, like I said, there was a previous protest that happened the week before it, and I was invited to the newer one by one of those protests that I did engage with, and so I showed up not knowing what to expect. I did not know it was a joint protest, so many people thought it was just an immigration protest going in from people who were getting there around the same time as me. It was a joint protest. The major organization I saw when I got there, because I got there a little early, was the Trans Advocacy Group here in Amarillo. And uh, again, I noted in the live that, there were certain signs there that talk specifically about race. I was approached by one of them asking if I was there to join them, if I would like to hold a sign. And I said, well, no, thank you. Just kind of engaging with them, being polite. They wanted me to hold a sign that said Black Trans Lives Matter. And I found it quite interesting that, I don't know you, never met you, and you kind of lead with something that's racially charged. And I kind of moved on from it because I don't know if they meant anything by it. They may not have, things happen. Continued on. Things were pretty normal. Had someone who going to be a photographer for one of the local papers. I've seen him at a fair few different protests, at least the ones that I've attended. And he pointed out the Potter County GOP chair to me and told me that who that person was. And he told me that person is racist. Now, I was live at the time this person came up to me. So if you go to my Facebook and click on the live, I believe he did cross in front of the camera at one point. Not sure if you can hear him talking to me, but the exchange we had is on film and it is on Facebook. And he said, well, he's racist. He's said many a racist statements over the years. He's just very vicious. He's a bad guy. He's a racist. He's staunchly racist. Okay, sure. I took that in, I didn't go up to him speaking. He came up to me. So again, it was one of those things where I don't know you, you're a stranger. I'm one of the only visibly Black people out here. And you approached me with this as the first thing to say. Found it odd. Again, I just took note, moved on. And I did see you. When I first got there, you were walking the sidewalk praying. I didn't see you engaging with anyone, but several people were making comments about you. And this is going into when the police came to speak with you, Alex. And again, haven't talked to these people other than to say, excuse me, let me see your sign. And these are the comments being made to me. Very odd. And so it was certainly polite interactions, but there were very odd interactions I had with several of the protesters. And my phone died. But I figured, let me go talk to this person. If they are racist, well, the worst thing they can do is call me a racial slur and then I go home. There's witnesses. There's enough militant people out here that if there is something, I'm sure I can be protected. The police were there. And so I did approach. He confirmed who he was, but there wasn't a racist bit of anything in any of our exchange. And so, yeah, it was just overall a very interesting protest, I'll say.
I will add that once you were engaging with us, I know that that you let us know, what part of the city you lived in, and you were offered to potentially be a precinct chair for that area from this GOP individual. So I will have to say that doesn't sound very racist. And I think that when we were engaging with you, of course, I'm biased to the degree that I am who I am. So people can say, well, of course, you're going to say, well, it's going to be up to you to be able to explain that in future days with others. And I can assure everyone out there that it was a really good engagement. To the degree that here we are talking all together on this podcast. So, Tony, what were your thoughts on the Monday protest?
Well, Vivian, I'm so thankful that your engagement with them was positive and nice, because mine was not. I also got there, but I was a little late. I drove by first a couple of hours before.
Well, let me interject just real quick. The engagement with me and Dan, or with? Just kidding.
Well, Dan, he's Dan, and he's just going to be. I think that people don't understand sometimes. When you're at that age, you've just kind of been brought up to talk a certain way. Something I've learned is language is very important. How you communicate with people is very important. And I do think that we get categorized and judged for that. However, I'm not here to say anything about that. But my engagement with the protesters, I had made a post on Facebook that they were there, and I didn't say, I just made aware in Amarillo that this is what's happening. I'm friends with, all the mayor council here, and I want people to know what's happening here. Because I didn't see any signs that supported any stance on anything. Like, there wasn't people there saying we're pro gay, pro trans, or we're pro this or that. It was all anti-Trump rhetoric. Anyway, we went back to work and did what we had to do. We were coming back by. I seen they were there, and after the responses I got on Facebook, they were saying, that they just made some weird comments. So I got out to see exactly why are you here. This is your opportunity to say why you're here. They did state that they were here as an anti. Fine. Didn't have a problem with that. I want people on Facebook. I wanted everyone to know why we were there. And so that's why I stopped. I wasn't interviewing them. I gave them an opportunity to speak. And before I went live, they were asking me, where are you with? And I said, well, I'm really a minute. Some people get crazy. I've been here for 10 years as far as doing that part. And so I went through all that. The main guy that was speaking, at the end of the speech, I said, well, it's about 5 minutes. And I said, well, are you remember? He said, no. And they got really defensive and started speaking slurs to me. And I was like, hold up. I said, because they were talking about being united. They were talking about being peaceful and this and that. And then all of a sudden they attacked me. And I said, you don't even know me. But I'm on, as far as this goes, like, you don't understand why I'm standing here. It was just to set the record straight. I do want, like, nobody else would get up there and say, hey, why are you here? And so, I felt like that would be something to do. And so by the end of that conversation, it got very abusive verbally by them towards us. And we're the ones who had to turn around, walk off. We're the ones who had to endure all that. And so it was just the very opposite of what they were speaking. And they're trying to antagonize us on a lot of things. But, I've been at this for a while. I'm not going to antagonize. I'm not going to go in and get my feelings hurt. At this point, we don't have many feelings left. But I do feel like people have ever needed to know that was going on here. I should agree that said, God doesn't exist, and they were just kind of shouting all those things to me. And that's whenever I ended the live. We started walking back to our vehicle, and who knows what all would have happened if we didn't have the APD standing there, because they were literally following us down the sidewalk when we were walking off, shouting rude, objective remarks to me, and they didn't know my last name.
Yeah, we'll wait for Cody to jump back on. I think his network was giving him a few problems. It's okay. Things like that happen. So as he was saying, because we've had this conversation already, and basically it turned a little bit aggressive on their end. They were following him as he was leaving the area, and they were saying a few things, which, if you're there to protest, the mass immigration, as far as the deportation, that's fine. But when you start to turn your anger towards other individuals that have the same right to be out there, I find that to be a bit curious, and I'm not going to fault them totally. Yeah, there's a lot of emotions that are involved in these things. But as you and I were speaking, Vivian, I was letting you know that, why don't these folks exercise some of this energy and go and meet up with their legislatures, and have these discussions in the manner to codify certain laws. I mean, if not, it's all just basically just chaos at some point. What are your thoughts on that, Vivian?
Sorry. Yeah, we had that conversation, and many of them, like I said, they're looking for something. They're just looking for something, and it's bad to frame it this way, but this is the best way I know how to describe it. It's a temper tantrum. It's like watching a child have a temper tantrum, and they want attention, they want to be heard, they want to be seen, they want to get their frustrations out and be able to express that. But in that moment, they're not looking for solutions, they're not looking for fixes, they're just looking for that energy exchange or expression. And then once you're able to cut through that temper tantrum and calm them down, if the gatekeepers aren't out to silence conversation, if you're able to speak with someone one-on-one, a lot of times there is common ground that is found, and there is an exchange of understanding, and there is often sometimes a conversation of finding a solution. But again, this is often cut short because everyone's out there having a temper tantrum, and someone will step in and try to kill that conversation.
Yeah, and if people are curious to find out exactly what, where they're coming from, I mean, they had a couple of people that I've seen in other areas. James Campos, he's with the Barrio Lions Club. And I didn't see Steven Rosas, but he's also with, in some capacity, with the Lions Club. Reach out to them and see if you can have a conversation with the Lions Club, and see if we could have some correspondence, some good dialogue. I know there's different chapters to the Lions Club. I think the one they belong to is the Barrio. I think it's called El Barrio Lions Club East or something like that, East Side. But my first interaction with them was the condoms and the coloring books that they had on display in partnership with the City Health Department. It was all in the same table. It was a Cinco de Mayo event, and it was an interesting situation. I did not expect to see lubricant alongside coloring books with edible condoms, and I just didn't think that that was a good optic, since there were kids out there. So if anyone's interested, they can reach out to the El Barrio Lions Club and maybe have a conversation with James Campos and Stephen Rosas and whoever else is involved in that. I'll say that I live close to the east side, and that to me just doesn't seem to be fitting as to what our values are. Tony, we're glad to have you back. It was cutting out just a little bit, and I guess it just jumped off, but we'll keep on trying. No big deal. It happens. So the next topic here, and we'll go to Tony on this. As you can see there, it's the coming up local election. Very important race. Very important. Local is always the most important because it affects you the very next day. So let me read this off real quick, and we'll discuss how important it is. So running for candidates for mayor are going to be Misty Collier, Jason Herrick, Luke Merrick, that's Marek, Cole Stanley, he's the incumbent. For place one, we have Tim Reed, Wendy Flores, Cherie Wood, Patrick Miller. I think Cherie has ran before. Tim Reed has ran for, I think, something before as well. I think where Senator Sparks is in right now. Don Tips, he's running unopposed for place two. Place three, we have David Prescott. Looks like Nune Pettis and Tom Sherlin is the incumbent there. And then Les Simpson on place four, Les Simpson, Leif Curtis, and Sylvia Elaine Steffens. Les Simpson is the incumbent there. So, you know quite a few of these folks. Tony, I think you've got a couple of interviews set up, right?
Yes, sir.
And those are coming up this next week. I think you're starting as soon as next Friday, correct?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. Who you've already have some assignments with, and what are you looking to establish in these interviews?
Yeah. So always, as somebody who looks over the safety and healing of people's hearts and minds, we're number one, always looking for protection, but we're also looking for prevention. This city would be so much better if we could prevent a lot of these things, bad things, evil things from happening before they actually happen. It's just like interviewing those people down the street. Catch it before it catches wings with everybody else, right? Some people are just floating along through life and don't follow anybody or any whim that they see. It's our job to get out there and speak the truth. The truth is what sets people free. And I just believe with all my heart that it's our job to help us. It takes us to help us. And so we're always looking to see why, we want to answer the question why. Why did you run? What end result did you have in mind? What makes you put aside family and friends and business to come in here and try to help run this city in the proper manner and the direction that we need to be going? And trust me, right now we need to get back on path. We've had a horrible 4 years of city management, and I don't mind saying that publicly. I do believe that the morale in the city has never been so low as it's been. Our crime rate, everything, and I believe that's a direct result of choices that our leadership has made. We want the blessings of God on this city. I believe with all my heart that we need to get people registered to vote. And then we need to educate people on what's been happening. We need to educate Christian voters, especially. And I say that we don't vote for a particular party this year. We need to vote for people whose hearts are pure, whose minds are clear, their conscience is clear, and their faith is genuine. And I believe the end result of that will be love. And I believe that we need to step up as Amarilloans and protect ourselves, our children, our grandchildren by saying, hey, that is not who we are. Like, this is who we are. This city is going in the wrong direction. And I feel like that's always upon leadership of any business, anything. Their leadership brings them in a direction, right? So I get elected mayor, and I'm saying, okay, just right up front, this is who we are. We're not this, we're not that, but this is who we are. And there's a value system that's laid down by these leaders, and they're just not following the party that they're running with. Not only do they run Republican, but they're all over conservative too. Well, in order to be those things, we have to vote that way. And so, anyway, we I'm a little.
You're good. I can hear you still. So until he comes back, your thoughts on the local election, Vivian? I ran through all the names. We have a few incumbents. One is unopposed. And what are your thoughts? How important is the local election process, and the people getting out?
So we have been in conversations with each other since the protest, and I feel with recent history, many of these incumbents are directly impacted, and I feel, like I said previously, people need to be aware of how they've handled these things, because that, once in the position, this is how they've handled it, and that will give you an indicator of what to expect if you vote them back in, or if they are voted back in. As for some of the newer people coming in, I am aware of some of them in a more personal capacity, and I do think they have good intentions, but again, it's about actions and what you do, and what are your true goals and motivations. So I do feel like people need to be paying attention. Like we talked, I've focused so much of my time and energy on the federal elections and the global happenings as far as politics goes. I'm aware of some of the more major happenings in Amarillo, but it's a recent update that I'm finally sort of digging into the more local situations, and I'm not happy with what I'm finding out. So I do think it is very, very extremely important for people to look into it to find out why are the things we are seeing are occurring, how they're continuing to occur, and what these people wish to do about it, what they want to do about it.
Yes, ma'am. It's important that the voter the due diligence that comes with choosing an official. Do your homework. Spend about 15-20 minutes a day, or try to budget in an hour of your time for that week, and just do a little research. It doesn't take much anymore. You just type in the name, and you go from there. And let the power of your, no, you're fine. And let the power of your time do some processing for you. To Tony's point earlier, he was mentioning, some of the effect of some of these candidates saying that they are part of a particular party line, and a type of individual as being conservative, being Republican. But he made the point that, these folks aren't really truly aligned with the planks that are within the platform. And so I think that's important to keep an eye on. If you're saying that you're pro-life, if you're saying that you're against certain technologies and innovations that are attached to ESG, economic social governance, and things of that nature, but yet you're doing other things, you're partnering with these ideals, then how are you truly complying with the party plank? It just, to me, you're wanting your cake and eat it too. You're getting the support from the party, but then when it comes time to adhere to the planks, we hear, well, it's a nonpartisan seat. It's nonpartisan. It's not Republican. It's not Democrat. Well, then why do you want the support from a particular party? I think that's something that we as voters need to really start to hold these particular organizations accountable to, and also the candidate themselves. In talking to you in the last several days, Vivian, you know where I stand. I look at the outcomes. What are you doing? That's who you are, not what you're saying. What you're implementing as policy and what you're voting for and getting behind, and the outcomes, that should tell anyone and everyone who you really are, because that's the fruit. That is the edification of what you are actually about, because those are the outcomes. We can say all day long and twice on Tuesday that we're for XYZ, but if the result is always, ABC, what you're saying and what the outcome is doesn't match up. So I think that in our talks, when it comes to what you use the term, I've used it before as well, gatekeepers, we really need to keep a watchful eye on those things. Who's been set in place, appointed to certain positions or elected, but yet it starts to really look more like a gatekeeper situation. Why is it that, and you don't have to get into specifics so much, but my utilization of the word and your utilization, I think it's the same, but our experiences may be worthwhile to kind of get into just a little bit. What is it, without spilling the beans on too many things? Why is it that you've come to that term in your assessment?
In my assessment, well, like I said, from my perspective, I've come to this from the lens of I was looking for information. I wanted to fully know about various topics because of the goings on in the country. And that led me to understanding that, like you said, it's not just about what people say, but about what they do. And I found a lot of times, and not just in politics, which, yes, not just in politics, but even in the social arena, as we've seen over the last 20 plus years in this country, local, state, federal, there are people who are put in certain positions with the specific goal of shepherding or sort of corralling certain individuals into certain fenced off areas. Being in certain conversations with certain people, I've personally found that the encouragement to be intelligent is there until you utilize that intelligence in a way that is not befitting of their agenda. And then the mask slips and the actions become clearer to you. So, you know, no one ever is aware that they're in a cage until they push on the cage, till they hit the wall. And so that's where I come from with that. And I do not think the term in and of itself is a negative. And what I mean by that is, also in my experience, I find that these corruptions or these negative things we see play out in the city and at the state level, national level, those also are happening because certain people in certain positions aren't gatekeeping. They're not keeping a watchful eye. They're not keeping a close attention to what the people around them are saying and doing. And because they're not gatekeeping justice, they're not making sure justice is upheld and making sure these things are, you know, kept integral, or the integrity is not kept. We see kind of shifting patterns. And so I think just being aware of that in essence is a very huge thing for a lot of people.
Yes, and in today's day and age, there's really no excuse for any voter to really take about 10, 20 minutes. I mean, you'll find a plethora of information just at the end of your hand, on your fingertips. You can just type in any candidate, look at a few things that they've done, and I would say do a thorough east-west spectrum of research. Don't just look from one side, look at it from all angles and kind of come to a good conclusion of what is most said. You know, what is a good display of I guess reporting, you know, because there is some reporting out there that can be a little biased. So I would say just be fair to yourself and look at both ends. You can't just look at everything from CNN. You can't just look at everything from Fox. No, we're not going to get that kind of reporting here. But what I'm saying is, you know, there's some little journalistic groups here that will give you their field, but look at all of them. You know, look at all aspects, look at all angles. So, Vivian, I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we can do more of these in the future. Tony, I think he probably lost a signal perhaps, but he's always a good voice. We have a lot of great ideas, and I hope that we can all work together to stimulate this vote this May, get a lot of folks out to the polls. And, you know, the most important is, number one, get them the information. But number two, once these folks are elected, we need to stay tight on the accountability aspect to the degree that, you know, you get what you get, and we don't have to settle for that. We can have meetings with these individuals. Hey, you know, when you ran for election, you said that you were going to do, you know, this particular item. I understand things happen, but, you know, where are we at? That's our right as the citizenry, as the constituent, to have that conversation, you know. So I appreciate your time, Vivian.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And until we meet again, I'm hoping that we can get you on again very soon.
Yes, sir.
You have a good night, okay?
Sir, you too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Yes, ma'am. So, Conservatives of Texas, this is Alex Deanda. As I mentioned before, I'm also a Republican Party chair for the precinct 111, 111. That's over here close to the east side. And so if you have any questions or comments that you would like to share, please don't hesitate to reach out. We meet every third Thursday here in the precinct, 7 p.m., Comanche Trail Church of Christ, east side entrance. We'd love to engage with you and have a conversation. So that goes for all the candidates and incumbents. Whoever else wants to join, you're always welcome. All right. You guys take it easy. God bless.